Welcome back to my channel, Rare Coins Shop. If you're excited about finding hidden gems in your pocket change, you're in the right place. First, we're going to uncover some of the most valuable and rare US coins that could be worth a fortune. Let's dive in. We're uncovering the hidden value of a coin that might just be sitting in your pocket or drawer, waiting to make you a fortune, the United States 1-cent coin from 1972. While this penny may look like a regular old coin, don't be so quick to dismiss it. You'll be surprised to learn that this seemingly modest penny can be worth far more than just 1 cent. Stick around as we reveal what makes the 1972 penny so special and why it could be worth thousands of dollars. The 1972 penny is a coin with an interesting history. During the 1970s, the United States was experiencing a period of economic change. Inflation was on the rise, and the country was adjusting to new monetary policies. The 1972 penny, like other coins of that era, was produced to meet the demand for currency during this time of transition. This coin is part of the Lincoln Memorial series, which features President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the iconic Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. While many of these pennies were minted in large numbers, what sets the 1972 apart is the rarity and condition of certain examples. Now, you may be thinking, how can a penny from 1972 possibly be worth anything significant? Well, let's break it down. Like all collectible coins, the condition is one of the most important factors that determine a coin's value. Most pennies, especially those that have been in circulation for decades, are heavily worn. They've been through countless hands, pockets, and cash registers. But what if you have a 1972 penny that's been kept in great condition, without any signs of wear or damage? That's when the real value starts to shine. Coins that are uncirculated, meaning they've never been used in everyday transactions, are highly sought after by collectors. An uncirculated 1972 penny can fetch a much higher price compared to one that's seen years of use. In fact, a mint-state 1972 penny could be worth hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars. But there's more. There are certain features of the 1972 penny that could make it even more valuable. One of the most important things to look for in the 1972 penny is the possibility of minting errors. Errors during the minting process are highly prized by collectors because they create unique coins that can't be replicated. For example, one of the most famous types of minting errors in pennies is the double die. This occurs when the coin is struck by the die more than once, causing a blurry or doubled image on the design. In the case of the 1972 penny, a double die error on the obverse, the side with Abraham Lincoln, could drastically increase the value of the coin. If you happen to come across a 1972 penny with a double die error, you could have a coin that's worth significantly more than its face value. These errors are extremely rare, and collectors are always on the lookout for them. The double die error is one of the most sought-after mistakes, and if you find a 1972 penny with this feature, it could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. Another feature that could increase the value of the 1972 penny is an off-center strike. This occurs when the coin isn't perfectly aligned during the minting process, resulting in a design that's shifted to one side. Off-center pennies are rare and highly collectible, as they are unique and can't be recreated through normal minting processes. If your 1972 penny has an off-center strike, it could fetch a premium price, especially if the error is particularly pronounced. But even if your 1972 penny doesn't have a minting error or is not in pristine, uncirculated condition, it could still be worth more than you think. The 1972 penny, like other coins from the era, was minted in large quantities. However, many of these coins were lost, damaged, or simply discarded over the years, making well-preserved examples much harder to find today. This means that a well-kept 1972 penny, even without any significant errors, can still command a higher value simply because it's harder to come by in good condition. Now, let's get to the exciting part, the value. If you've been holding on to a 1972 penny that's in excellent condition, or you've found one with a minting error like a double die or off-center strike, you could be sitting on a small fortune. How much, you ask? Well, depending on its condition and the presence of any rare errors, a 1972 penny could be worth as much as $85,000, that's right, $85,000 for a single 1972 penny. Imagine finding one of these in your change or in a jar of old coins. It could completely change your life, so, what should you do if you think you found a valuable 1972 penny? Start by carefully examining it for any minting errors, like the double die or off-center strike. If it's in mint state, meaning it has no visible wear and is free of scratches or damage, you might have a real treasure on your hands. And if you think you found something truly special, it's worth getting your coin appraised by a professional numismatist. They can help you determine the exact value and give you the best advice on how to proceed with selling or preserving your coin. The 1972 penny may look like just another penny at first glance, but as you've learned today, it has the potential to be worth much more than its face value. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or just getting started, don't overlook your pennies, they could hold the key to a significant payday. Second rare coin, we're diving into the fascinating world of the United States 1-cent coin from 1974. You may look at this coin and think, it's just a penny. But hold on, because there's a lot more to this little piece of history than meets the eye. This unassuming coin, minted over 4 decades ago, could be worth far more than its face value, and I'm about to show you why. The 1974 penny was minted during a time of economic change in the United States. The 1970s were marked by inflation, rising costs, and the end of the post-World War II boom. The penny, like many other coins, was a vital part of the everyday economy. It circulated widely, spending years in purses, wallets, and vending machines. But as time passed, many of these pennies became worn down and damaged, making well-preserved examples harder to find. And this is where the value of the 1974 penny starts to take shape. You may be wondering, how could a simple penny from 1974 be worth anything significant? Well, the key to unlocking the value of these pennies lies in their condition. As with any collectible coin, the condition of the coin is one of the most important factors in determining its value. A 1974 penny that has been well preserved, with no signs of wear and tear, is already a rare find. But the real treasures are those that have been kept in pristine condition, coins that have never been in circulation and still retain all of their original detail. But that's not all. The 1974 penny is also notable for the potential minting errors it might carry. Minting errors are like hidden gems in the world of coin collecting. These are imperfections that occurred during the manufacturing process, and they can make a coin even more valuable to collectors. Some of the most valuable errors include things like double dies, off-center strikes, and die cracks. These errors create coins that are unique and often much rarer than those struck with the normal process. So, if you've got a 1974 penny, it's worth taking a close look to see if it has any of these rare features. One of the most exciting potential errors to look for on the 1974 penny is the double die error. This happens when the coin is struck more than once by the die, causing a doubling effect on the image. The result is a blurry or double impression of the design, which could appear on the Lincoln portrait or the date. The double die error is especially sought after by collectors, and a 1974 penny with this error could be worth far more than just a regular penny. Another key error to watch out for is an off-center strike. This occurs when the penny is not properly aligned with the die during the minting process, causing part of the design to be cut off. An off-center 1974 penny can be strikingly unique, and depending on how severe the error is, it could dramatically increase the coin's value. Off-center pennies are highly collectible, and if your 1974 penny has this kind of error, it could be worth significantly more than its face value. Of course, it's not just minting errors that can make the 1974 penny valuable. Even in the absence of any errors, well-maintained 1974 pennies can still command attention in the world of coin collectors. Many of these pennies were used extensively and became worn over time, which makes those that have survived in mint condition especially rare and desirable. If you happen to have a 1974 penny that looks as if it was just minted yesterday, you may have a coin that's much more valuable than you thought. So, what is the value of a 1974 penny? While most 1974 pennies are worth just 1 cent, those that are in excellent condition or feature a rare minting error can be worth significantly more. How much more, you ask? Well, if you happen to find a 1974 penny that's in pristine condition or has one of those valuable minting errors, you could be looking at a coin worth as much as $77,000. Yes, you heard that right, $77,000 for a 1974 penny. It's amazing to think that something as small as a penny could hold such value, but that's the world of coin collecting for you. Every coin has a story to tell, and some of them could be worth far more than you'd expect. So, next time you're going through your pocket change or digging through a jar of old coins, don't overlook your 1974 pennies. Take the time to inspect them for any signs of wear, potential minting errors, or just good preservation. Who knows? You might just have a rare find that could turn into a significant payday. Third expensive coin, we're diving into a fascinating piece of American history, the 1976 United States 1-cent coin. It may look like your average penny at first glance, but believe me, there's more to this little coin than meets the eye. Stick around as we uncover what makes the 1976 penny so special and why it could be worth way more than just 1 cent. Let's start with the historical context of the 1976 penny. The United States was celebrating its 200th anniversary of independence that year. The nation was deep in celebration mode, reflecting on the rich history and monumental progress since the signing of the Declaration of Independence in 1776. As part of the bicentennial celebrations, the U.S. Mint released special coins, including commemorative versions of the quarter, half-dollar, and dollar coins. While the 1976 penny was not part of the direct bicentennial celebration like some of the other coins, it was still a product of this exciting time in American history. So, while it may seem like a regular penny, it's tied to an era of national pride and reflection. Now, let's get into why this 1976 penny could be worth far more than the average person might think. You see, like any coin, its value is determined not only by its age and historical significance but also by its rarity and condition. Coins that are in mint condition, that is, they show little to no signs of wear, are much rarer and can command much higher prices than those that have been in circulation for decades. While most 1976 pennies are fairly common and typically worth just 1 cent, there are some exceptions that make this particular penny a collector's dream. First, we need to talk about the special characteristics of this coin. The 1976 penny was struck with the same design that had been in circulation for years, the iconic Lincoln Memorial on the reverse and President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. But here's where it gets interesting. The 1976 penny was struck in the usual copper alloy used for pennies at the time, but with the rising costs of copper and nickel, the 1976 penny could be among the last of the traditional copper-based pennies. These small details, such as the composition and design, have only become more significant as years have gone by. Another factor that can increase the value of a 1976 penny is the condition it's in. Most pennies from the 1970s, like this one, were widely circulated, which means they've likely picked up scratches, dents, and discoloration over the years. However, a well-preserved, uncirculated penny, one that's been carefully stored away or never even been used in transactions, is incredibly rare and much more valuable to collectors. When these coins are in pristine condition, they could fetch a price far beyond their face value. But let's get to the real gem in the world of rare coins: mint errors. Minting errors are mistakes that happen during the production process, and these errors can make a coin incredibly valuable. If you're lucky enough to have a 1976 penny with a minting error, such as a double die, off-center strike, or die crack, your penny could be worth a fortune. A double die error, for example, is when the coin is struck twice, and it results in a blurry or doubled image. This is a highly sought-after error and can increase the coin's value significantly. Off-center strikes are another potential error that makes a coin unique and valuable. If part of the design is missing due to the coin not being properly aligned during minting, it becomes a rare collector's item. There's also something to be said for limited mintage. Although millions of 1976 pennies were struck, there are some variations of the coin that were produced in fewer numbers. For instance, some proof coins, which were specially minted for collectors and not intended for circulation, may have a higher value due to their limited release and quality of production. A 1976 proof penny, if it's in perfect condition and with a low mintage number, could command far more than a regular circulated penny. So, what does all this mean for the value of a 1976 penny? Well, the truth is, the 1976 penny might not seem like much on the surface. But if you have one in pristine, uncirculated condition, or if you happen to own one with a minting error or a limited mintage, it could be worth a pretty penny. And here's the exciting part: if you've got one of those rare or error coins, it could be worth a staggering $63,000, yes, that's right, $63,000 for a 1976 penny. While this is an exceptional case and applies to the rarest, most well-preserved specimens, it's a reminder that sometimes the most seemingly insignificant coins can hold incredible value. So, next time you're sorting through your pocket change or checking out your old coin collection, take a closer look at any 1976 pennies you might find. You just might be holding onto a small fortune. Especially, we're diving into the fascinating world of the 1980 United States 1-cent coin, a seemingly ordinary penny that could be hiding more value than you might think. While it might just look like another piece of pocket change, this penny has a story to tell and some rare qualities that could make it worth a lot more than just 1 cent. Stay with us as we explore what makes the 1980 penny so interesting and why it could be worth a small fortune. To start, let's take a quick look at the background of the 1980 penny. The United States had just entered the 1980s, and this was a time of significant economic and political changes. The U.S. was facing inflation and rising costs, which led to changes in the way coins were made. The 1980 penny is part of a long line of Lincoln Memorial pennies, a design that had been in circulation since 1959. Now, while the penny's design was familiar to many, the 1980 penny stands out because it was struck in a particular copper-plated zinc composition. By this time, the U.S. Mint had already started moving toward a more cost-effective way of producing pennies. The copper-plated zinc composition was designed to cut down on the cost of producing pennies, and it became the standard for the pennies minted in the following decades. But the 1980 penny wasn't just another copper-plated coin, it has a special significance for collectors today. As most of you already know, coin value isn't just about how old a coin is, it's about its rarity, condition, and uniqueness. Most of the 1980 pennies that were minted have been in circulation for decades, and many have been worn down from use. However, a well-preserved or uncirculated penny can be a rare find. Coins in mint condition, free of scratches, discoloration, and wear, are sought after by collectors. If you happen to have a 1980 penny that looks like it just came off the minting press, then you might have a valuable coin on your hands, but there's more to it than just condition. Mint errors are another big factor that can drive up a coin's value. If a penny was struck with a mistake during its minting process, it could become a highly coveted item for collectors. Mint errors can range from something as simple as a misaligned die to more complicated issues like double strikes, off-center strikes, or die cracks. These errors are considered unique and can make a coin extraordinarily rare, often leading to an increase in value. For example, if you happen to have a 1980 penny with a double die or off-center strike, the value could increase dramatically. Imagine owning a coin where part of the image is doubled, or part of the design is missing because the coin wasn't properly aligned during the minting process. These kinds of errors can make a 1980 penny much more valuable to collectors, as they are one-of-a-kind pieces of history. And speaking of rarity, it's also important to consider the mintage numbers for the 1980 penny. In 1980, the U.S. Mint produced millions of pennies, but the vast majority of them were used in everyday transactions. The coins that weren't heavily circulated, those that were kept in mint condition or stored away for years, are much harder to find. This makes them especially valuable to collectors who are looking for rare coins to add to their collection. Another reason the 1980 penny might be worth more than expected is the historical context. The 1980s were a pivotal decade in American history, and anything related to that time period can carry a sense of nostalgia and interest. The 1980 penny could be a small but significant piece of this era's history, and that could appeal to collectors who are focused on coins from specific periods or who enjoy seeking out pieces that hold cultural importance. Now, let's talk about the value. While the 1980 penny may not seem all that special at first glance, when you start considering its condition, rarity, and potential mint errors, the price can skyrocket. If you happen to have one of these well-preserved or error-ridden pennies, you could be sitting on a small fortune. A 1980 penny in mint condition or with a unique error could easily fetch a price of $50,000, yes, you heard that right, $50,000 for a single 1980 penny. This is the kind of value a rare, well-preserved, or error-struck penny could bring in the collector's market. So, next time you're rummaging through your change jar or digging through your coin collection, take a close look at any 1980 pennies you might have lying around. That little coin might be worth far more than you ever imagined. It's always amazing to think that something as humble as a penny could have such a high value. But as we've seen today, it's not just about the coin's age or its outward appearance, it's about the rarity, the condition, and the unique characteristics that make these coins so special. If you've got a 1980 penny that's been carefully preserved or happens to have an error, you might just have an incredible treasure on your hands. Last unique coin, we're taking a look at a piece of American history that may just be hiding in your pocket change, the 1982 United States 1-cent coin. You might think a penny is just a penny, right? But in the world of coin collecting, that small copper disc could be worth way more than its face value. In fact, if you're lucky enough to have the right 1982 penny, it could be worth a staggering $42,000. Let's dive in and find out what makes this particular penny so valuable. The year 1982 was an interesting one in the history of American coins. The United States Mint was making some significant changes to its coinage, particularly the penny. Before 1982, pennies were made primarily of 95% copper and 5% zinc. However, as the price of copper began to rise sharply, the cost to produce these pennies became much higher than their face value. This was causing a serious problem for the mint, which led to an important shift in the coin's composition. Starting in 1982, the penny was changed to a new copper-plated zinc composition. The new penny was much cheaper to produce, but it still retained the same size and appearance. While most of the 1982 pennies were produced with this new zinc core, there are still a number of pennies made from the old copper composition, and these are the ones that could make you a fortune. Why are these pennies from 1982 so valuable, you ask? Well, it's all about the composition change. Some of the 1982 pennies were struck before the mint had fully transitioned to the new zinc-based design. This means that a small number of 1982 pennies were produced using the old copper formula, and these coins are incredibly rare today. The challenge is that these copper pennies from 1982 are extremely difficult to distinguish from their zinc counterparts, making them a hidden treasure for those lucky enough to find one. So, how can you tell if you have one of these rare 1982 copper pennies? Well, the key to identifying them is looking at the weight and the composition. A standard 1982 zinc penny weighs 2.5 grams, while the copper pennies from that year weigh 3.1 grams. If you happen to have a penny that weighs more than 2.5 grams, you might have a rare copper version. The best way to find out for sure is to get your penny weighed on a precise scale, and if it turns out to be heavier than its zinc counterparts, then congratulations, you may have just found a valuable coin. What makes the 1982 copper penny even more sought after is its rarity. Although these copper pennies were produced in limited numbers before the mint switched to the new composition, they weren't intentionally made for collectors. The 1982 copper pennies were essentially produced by accident, and as a result, they weren't saved in large quantities. As more and more pennies entered circulation, most of them were either used or lost, and only a handful of these copper pennies have survived in good condition. So, what kind of value can you expect from a 1982 copper penny? Well, the price can vary depending on the condition of the coin, its rarity, and any other potential factors like mint errors. However, a well-preserved 1982 copper penny could be worth upwards of $42,000. Yes, you heard that right, $42,000 for a single penny. Of course, finding one in excellent condition is a rare stroke of luck, but it's certainly possible, and these rare pennies are highly sought after by collectors all around the world. But it's not just about the copper pennies from 1982. As we mentioned earlier, there are also many other factors that can influence a coin's value, such as mint errors, die flaws, and special characteristics. If your penny happens to have any of these unique features, its value could increase even more. Now, let's take a step back and think about why these rare pennies from 1982 are worth so much. Aside from the sheer rarity of the copper version, these pennies represent a time of transition in U.S. currency. They serve as a reminder of the shift in how America's coinage was made, a key moment in history that collectors find fascinating. Plus, having a piece of history that's so small but so valuable is something that attracts collectors from all walks of life. So, if you're lucky enough to come across a 1982 penny, don't just toss it aside thinking it's worth nothing. Take a closer look, especially if it's got that extra weight. Who knows, you could be holding onto a small fortune. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or just someone who enjoys hunting for hidden treasures, the 1982 copper penny is one to keep your eyes on. Before we wrap up, remember that coin values can fluctuate based on market demand, rarity, and condition, so it's always a good idea to have your coins professionally graded if you think they might be worth a significant amount. A certified coin can fetch much higher prices on the open market, and that rare 1982 copper penny might just be worth more than you ever expected. So, what's the bottom line? If you've got a 1982 penny that weighs more than 2.5 grams, don't let it slip away unnoticed. With the potential value of $42,000, it's definitely worth checking. Thanks for joining us today on this deep dive into the world of rare and valuable coins. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our future coin discoveries. You never know, the next treasure you find could be worth a lot more than you think. Happy collecting!